I think we're live. We're live now?
Did you do that on purpose, Gary? Have the L
Did I do
missing?
what? What?
The L is missing in Sam Neill.
No, that's their fucking thing.
That is wrong.
They did that. That's their fucking graphic right there for selling their DVD. Seriously, here I'll show you. I'm not lying. Oh wait, I don't have it. Do I have this one? Because again, it's spelled right everywhere else, but on that one DVD, spelled wrong. That's funny. I know it affects her OCD. You can't see her, but she's back here whining.
Fuck you, Gary.
It's Military Monday. Welcome, gang. We got Anima Confusa, of course, Martina Costa Santana, and our good panel buddy, Pope Metallicus the first.
How's it going, my friends?
It's going. It's going. So let's see. What are we doing here? We're going to be talking about this movie that's got Sam Neill in it and Mel Gibson and John Philip Law, who's actually an American actor who spent a lot of time in Europe, and that guy over on the far right with the beret. I don't know who the hell.
He's playing a Dutchman.
Oh, he's the guy that dies. Never mind. Yeah, he dies right in the beginning. We're gonna put him right on the poster. So this was a request film. Hey, Kingsport Callis here and D. Bud Martin. Good morning, guys. This was a request by our good friend Tim. Was it Tim?
Or yes. No, it was Tim.
Tim wanted us to do this one. I'm going to be honest. I've never wanted to see this film, but I've often considered seeing it. And for some reason, it was available so many times to me, and I just didn't watch it. I don't know why. There seems something not so awesome about it.
Yeah, you didn't miss much.
I gotta tell you, it's not a great film, but it's okay. It's good. It's got a nice little introduction that says that this film was made as realistic as they could, that deal with special forces teams from Australia. And this specifically was Attack Force Z, or Zebra, as we would say in the U.S., is actually a mishmash of different special forces. It's sort of like what 141 is today. They show it in Modern Warfare, and I think they call it 145, Team 145. But 141 is actually the call sign for the current Joint Task Force Special Forces team. And this was one of those teams, and they went on special operations, and sometimes they didn't come back. In one case in particular, I remember the entire team was captured and executed. Which, went against the rules because they were wearing proper uniforms, yet they were still executed.
So like
that's Japan for you.
It's like it was the Swedish force that destroyed the German embarkment of heavy water.
But I got to tell you,
they will all.
The Germans just saw a bunch of beautiful blonde women and didn't think to fight back because they're Swedish women, because they're all platinum hot. Shut up.
They weren't women. That's in that fucking game.
Jesus Christ, man.
Where's this going?
Period in special forces tactics, because it's not like now where they would like have like a whole plan of like exactly how everything was going to go and multiple agencies to make sure we got these guys back. They would train up a bunch of commandos, drop them off, and just kind of go, "Have fun, kids."
Yeah, because nobody really exactly knew how to do some of these things. And our first commando team were the fucking Rangers, Airborne Rangers.
Yeah, the Rangers, and then very shortly after the Marine Raiders.
Hence the saying, Rangers lead the way.
Yep. And the funniest one, I think, is the Marine Raiders, because if you look at the op plan for that, I'm absolutely certain the guy who came up with that was not sober during the entire process. It's like, basically, we're going to take a bunch of grunts, stick them on a submarine, just drop them off on an atoll in the Pacific to go play with the Japanese for a while, and then come and pick up the survivors after a day or two.
Yeah. Hey, for everybody that's watching right now, right now we're at 11. Like we said, we're not going to get a big number like we normally do, because this isn't a well-known popular film. But tell everybody your military service, Pope, so they know why you're here.
So I served in the Marine Corps and the infantry from 2008 to 2012, including one Afghanistan deployment in 2009, which was all sorts of fun, because that was back during the days of, like, we were actually taking territory back in Afghanistan, not just kind of, doing what we were in the end, kind of fighting a holding action. But I actually served in 5th Marines over on Camp Pendleton, so I've actually played with the Raiders a little bit, because they were just getting stood up when I was coming in. We never actually got to operate with them, but we did train with them.
And with the Marine Corps, when I was in, we always knew the special forces for the Marine Corps was Force Recon.
Yeah, they have Force Recon, but because of how SOCOM works, we never attached Force Recon to SOCOM. So Force Recon is basically the Marine Corps' own special forces. And then they stood up initially called MARSOC, and then they changed their name to the Raiders right when I came in as our SOCOM force.
And there's some tough hombres, man. And by the way, just to let you know, there's only 2 military branches in the United States that have infantry. That's the U.S. Army and the U.S. Marine Corps.
Yep.
And the one thing I always thought was interesting with the Marines, because you know what? The only reason I didn't go Marines was because they didn't have their own corpsmen.
Yeah,
that's all I wanted to be. And
that's always been how we are.
I always
a
wanted
lot
to
of
be
our
a Marine
support
like my
stuff
brother.
is all Navy.
See, my brother was a Marine, and I wanted to be a Marine like him. But when I found out that they only use Navy hospital corpsmen, and if you go in the Navy, you've got an 80% chance of not being with the Marine Corps, and I'm like, that's too much of a risk to do Navy shit for me. I don't want to be in the Navy.
No, the FMS guys, the corpsmen that actually do get stationed with us are the absolute best in the entire
top of the
service. And they're some of the best medics I've ever met.
And in the U.S. Army, we have what's referred to as Combat Medic Award, which is awarded to the top combat medics. And
Nice.
And it's sort of like that. But the Marine Corps actually has longer basic. Your basic is 10 weeks, whereas your boot camp, our basic is 8 weeks.
It's like when I went through, it was 13.
Really? I thought it was just 10. So
no, they keep changing the length of it, I think, depending on what era you were in. I know in Vietnam it was
they do a little AIT with your basic, because when I looked at what your training included, I'm like, oh, they're already training for certain specialized things already in basic, where we don't do that. It's just basic infantry. And then you graduate from that and you go to AIT, and you do that for 10 to 16 weeks.
Yeah, that's one unique thing with the Marines is we include a little bit of basic infantry training in boot camp, because every Marine or rifleman basically will take guys from any job and stick them on the line if we need it. And during Korea,
every Marine is a basic Marine. At its base core of the Corps, every Marine is a Marine.
Yep. And during Korea, especially, we did that extensively, where we'd take like cooks, clerks, all that, and put them on the line because we were running out of Marines.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Another thing, there was something else I wanted to bring up about it and I wanted to ask you, with the Marine Corps. Oh, crud. Because I know that we have all of us have branch making fun of the other branches.
Oh, of course.
Do that. But Army tends really not to make fun of Marines.
We do, but it's not as vicious as like Marines and Navy.
Yeah. we make it's sort of like my favorite joke in the Army was every branch has nicknames for all the other branches. Like the U.S. Army is Dog Face, Doughboy, Grunt. Marine Corps is Jarhead, Gyrene. Let's see, Grunt as well, because
my personal favorite, Crayon Eater.
Because that's one I didn't learn until later, and I was like, oh, that's really neat. Navy is like Squid, Swabby.
A lot of other words we can't say on YouTube.
Yeah, on YouTube. And then U.S. Air Force, we all refer to as civilians in uniform.
Well, of course, because there's only two branches of the U.S. military, because the Army and the Navy, because the Air Force is a corporation and the Marine Corps is a cult.
Yeah, yeah, it's like, and the Marine Corps always jokes about the Navy being their taxi, and we refer to the Air Force as our taxi.
Yeah, pretty much.
They take us wherever we need to go, and you guys go by water, we go by air. But what's funny is because they changed the Marine Corps hymn.
Yep. Yeah, right after World War I, they changed it.
The minute you guys started doing air, Marine air, they had to bring in air.
Well, of course, we got to have the air wingers involved.
Yep,
because they're Marines too, and those guys put in work.
Well, I got to tell you, you'll see photos from Vietnam, F4Es going in. Those aren't Navy or Air Force.
No, hell, even back during World War II, the Cactus Air Force, doing what Marines do best and just violently assaulting anything that came within air range of Guadalcanal.
And that's just it, because they've always been the few that proud the Marines. They always have smaller numbers, which is why when you guys go into combat and try to hold ground, which is not what a Marine's supposed to be doing, that's Army's job. We're supposed to hold the ground after you take it.
We're basically just dedicated shock troops.
Yeah, that's it. Which is why so many people are horrified of the fucking Marines.
Well, yeah, because the Army, like, you can kind of predict what most Army units are going to do. It'll be a slow advance with a lot of firepower, a lot of armor. And then there's the Marine Corps. We'll just get up close and jump in your positions like a bunch of cocaine-fueled circus monkeys, and then just start breaking stuff.
Well, that's how you got the name Devil Dogs from the Germans.
Yep.
The Huns, because they were terrified of you guys. And I told you about my grandfather, because he was there from day one to the last day of the war, and he witnessed the Marines, and because when the Marines had to come back for food, for cleaning, my grandfather's team would go up and hold their position.
Yeah,
and he said those Marines came walking back covered in what looked like mud. It was also mustard gas.
Yeah, probably,
because it would clump up on them. And they, in order to be able to see, they had poked out the lenses on their gas masks.
Kind of, defeating.
And my grandfather, the way he said it, he says, those crazy sons of bitches. He always said sons of bitches. Those crazy sons of bitches would poke the lenses out of their masks so they could aim.
Yeah.
Making the mask useless.
Hey, no one ever said we were the brightest bulb on the tree.
But Dan Daly is one of the single most revered Marines in military history.
And
him and Chastity Puller and Dan Daly. And Dan Daly is the one who famously said, "You want to live forever" at the Battle of Belleau Wood.
Yep. And the funny part is, I grew up in the 90s, so I remember seeing Starship Troopers when I was younger, and I never knew what that quote actually was until I joined the Marine Corps. And I'm like, wait, are you kidding? That's where it's from? U.S.
Marine Corps. Dan Daly. And Dan Daly, oh my God, as decorated as he was from World War I, was actually also highly decorated before World War I, because he held the wall during the Boxer Rebellion.
Yep, and that is a hell of a story in and of itself, of just one guy holding off 500 Chinese rebels for an entire night, pretty much, with just an old Colt M1895 really shitty machine gun and a bolt-action rifle.
The bolt-action rifle is where he did his most damage.
Yep, because machine guns went down all the time, especially
center mass and headshots.
Yeah, I mean, back then, machine guns were a brand new thing, and they weren't all that great yet.
The Maxim at the time was the best machine gun.
And we only had a very few of those. Most of those were Browning 1895 potato diggers.
Yeah. My grandfather, oddly, as an American, ended up mounting a water-cooled Maxim machine gun.
Wow, okay.
Oh, that should have hurt.
But he told me, that it wasn't mobile, that it would be planted and you could only move like about an inch.
Yeah, back then, I mean, these machine guns weighed, especially full of water, weighed like 80 pounds.
You had two machine gunners spread out, and their fire was meant to crossfire.
Yeah, we always try to do that, even in the modern era, where when we're putting machine guns in a position, because I was a machine gunner, so we got trained to do this constantly. We'll sketch out what the fire plan for the entire area looks like. And we always want to make sure that for most of the coverage, we can have at least two machine guns aiming at the same spot.
I'm sorry, I just read this when Gary was referred to as a back door opener by his drill instructor.
Here's your daily breach by Debo.
In the Army, we call them drill sergeants. Marine Corps refers to them as DIs, drill instructors. Although, we loosely refer to basic as boot too.
Yeah.
And we do recognize that they are drill instructors, but because we refer to them as our primary drill instructors, is how we say it in the Army. He's our drill sergeant, but one of them is your primary, and that's how you say it. But interestingly, Marines, what was I going to say? I just lost my fucking train of thought with Marine Corps and drill instructors. NCOs are considered actual officers in the Marine Corps, whereas in the Army, they kind of ignore the officer.
With us, the NCOs are, they're basically more experienced professionals, and a lot of them are incredibly good at what they do.
Sir, whereas in the Army, they don't like being called sir. Our senior NCOs, drill instructors.
Yeah, no.
They want
to
be
refer to them
sergeant.
by their full rank, and that is one big difference from the Army and the Marines. That gets a lot of soldiers in trouble because they'll walk by like a Marine first sergeant or whatever, and go, "Oh, good morning, Top." Yeah, you do not call a Marine first sergeant Top ever. His name is First Sergeant.
That's Army.
Yeah, we're just but it's like one of those. You should know that because Marine first sergeants are about as humorous as a bear with a rash.
That's so wild. And and in the Army, it's just so weird. NCOs are like, don't call me sir, I work for a living. Whereas in Marine Corps, you call NCOs sir.
In boot camp, because our mentality on it is you are not a Marine yet. You do not rate to call them by their rank. You're a recruit, the lowest form of life on earth.
And then, of course, later, if you have a gunnery sergeant, that's the one I always love hearing when I hear a Marine. It's like, yes, Gunny.
Yeah, I love that. Because Gunny is the guy. Gunnies are usually the operations chief for a company. So basically, any kind of supplies or equipment you guys need, Gunny can get it. And a lot of times you will be helping him get it because the stuff he needs is in somebody else's equipment lockup.
Yeah. Now, I've got to tell you, my brother's experience, he went to, he didn't go to Parris Island. Where did you go?
I went to Parris Island, but the way it works with that is basically it's where you're recruited from. So basically, if you're from east of the Mississippi, you're going to Parris Island. And if you're west of there, you're going to San Diego. There was a very brief period during World War II where all of it was going on in San Diego because there was a weird viral outbreak at Parris Island. So they were basically just shutting that facility down and everybody trained in San Diego, which made sense anyway because all of the Marines were going straight to the Pacific. So might as well start them heading that way anyway.
At that end of the country. Yeah. And that's where my brother went to boot, was San Diego. But he had an incident there that really terrified me when I heard about it. He said that he and another dude were just kind of fuck ups, and he was having some trouble, and they put him in these lockers, shoved him and the other guy in these lockers. and walked around the lockers hitting it with hammers.
Yeah, that happens.
I'd rather take a fucking beating than
Yeah,
have
I mean
my ears bleed.
that kind of played down towards my era. Like, don't get me wrong, if you fucked up when we were in, you would get dragged off in the tree line for a while, and then whatever happened to make that happen never ever happened again.
Yeah, they say that there's no hands-on, but I'm telling you, and we practiced as squad leaders. We practice hands-on training, which means that you lay hands on somebody when they fuck up. And I witnessed our senior drill sergeant. He lost his shit one day on this guy, and he says, "In my office," and we heard that door shut, and then we heard banging and furniture moving.
Ah, yes, wall-to-wall counseling.
It was awesome.
That's what it's called.
I like that name. Wall-to-wall
That's
counseling.
great.
It was something else, man.
And then I don't know if you guys remember the show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like that was on like right around the time we were in. So we were using that, like, the whole Tahiti is a magical place thing, because this is the era where hazing was kind of being cracked down on in the military, but we're still in the middle of 2 wars, so we still used it because it got shit done. Right. So we were just like, when anyone asked, we're just like, the tree line is a magical place.
Yeah. Now we started the slideshow, so I'm going to go ahead and read this out loud. Z Special Force, Z, was a secret operations unit of the Australian Armed Services in World War II. It was made up of volunteers from all branches of the Allied forces and came under the direct command of General Douglas MacArthur. Z Special carried out 284 wartime missions in the Pacific. The most publicized of these were the successful canoe raid on Singapore Harbor from the Crate and the subsequent, I don't know how to pronounce that, Rimau raid, in which all 23 participants were either killed in action or executed, which is the one I read about. And the way I read it was that they had all been executed, but I don't know. The events depicted in this film are an honest and unflinching account of the type of operation carried out by our unit during the war. I thought that was a weird phrasing. And that's written by John G. Gardner, President, Z Special Forces Association, New South Wales. So I'm guessing the accuracy of this film is up there, but I've got so many problems with, like, the bullet wounds are just so weird. Like, you and I both know what bullet wounds look like, and you have to cut through the clothing to find them sometimes. Okay. And in this one, you don't have to, because somehow the bullet wounds in this one, the wound to the clothing is bigger than the wound itself.
And there's almost no blood.
And you can see all this pink skin and then the wound. This giant hole.
It looks so goofy. That and the lack of blood.
I don't know who is in charge of that. And yeah, there's very little blood. And I'm like, they don't bleed immediately. A lot of times it takes a second for the body to go, oh, I have a hole in me.
Well, in a lot of cases, the temporary cavities basically blasted all sorts of any kind of bodily fluid away from the wound at first. So it takes a second to fill back in to the point where you'll start bleeding through.
Yep. Not everybody's squirting, and
Jesus,
so
crazy.
You've got that. And also, but I will say this is when you shoot somebody, there is a mist. And I try to tell people what it looks like, and they just don't quite understand it. It is like a fine mist of tissue and blood.
Yeah.
And it's something that once you see it, you never forget. It's a snapshot in your brain.
Yeah, and people who haven't seen it don't really know yet. And those who have, you don't even need to describe it. We all know.
Yeah. But I will say this, that this is one thing I admire about what my boss does, Dale Dye, who's also another revered Marine. Dye puts that realism back in. He's the one who would show, like, I love this in Band of Brothers, where you'd see somebody get hit and they just drop like a puppet. Strings got cut.
Yep.
Because they're getting hit by high caliber rounds. And that is a shock to the body.
Oh yeah, getting hit with an 8mm Mauser or 30-06 is that's a significant round.
Yeah, the M1, man, throws out a hunting rifle round. And when it hits a human being, they just tend to drop. None of that Hollywood fall back.
Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons we used 30-06 and 45 ACP for so long, is that it's a one-shot. You're at least stopping him.
Absolutely. And 45 ACP is, Don Ecker's and my preferred weapon is the 1911 45.
I own one.
It is the best weapon for taking somebody down because it is a one-shot weapon. And the reason it was brought into the military was because of what happened in the Philippines with our fights with the Moors. And they would climb up trees and jump down with machetes tied with their hands together, tied around the handle so they wouldn't let go.
Yep, and even more terrifying, they pump them up with drugs beforehand so that they wouldn't feel the impact.
Yeah,
from
so they would
38.
jump down, and if you shot them with a Webley or that was one of the pistols they used at the time, it would kill them, but it wouldn't stop them from stabbing you or cutting you. And those machetes are that's a nightmare weapon for me.
Oh yeah,
somebody attacked me with a machete. It's just a nightmare. And so they said we need a round that'll actually spin them or flip them. Oh, by the way, these are the canoe launches they would get from these subs. This is realistic. This is how they would launch these from subs. And they would come in on these little canoes. And but anyway, the 45 was brought in because they needed a round that would spin them or knock them backward. And the 45 ACP is one of the few rounds that will do what they show in movies.
Yeah,
it will knock you backwards. It'll spin you. And that was why they wanted it.
If you hit the chest, it will just stop that person dead, and any kind of forward momentum's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. Because it uses something similar to the hydraulic effect because there's so much air. It's a slow subsonic round, and it's huge. And so it collects all this air, and it does something that the other bullets don't do. It punches the target. It punches it. And it absolutely will knock the shit out of you. And it is my preferred weapon for like home invasion. People go, shotgun. I'm a 45. I'll take.
I mean, there's more modern variants of it now. Like the Sig 2 series has a 45 that's basically just a modified 1911. That's one of my absolute favorite pistols of all time. Yeah. And now you have the FNX 45, which is amazing, but there's nothing like the original.
Exactly. By the way, they're all carrying modified grease guns, which is one of Don's favorite machine guns. It's what my dad carried in the Army.
Yeah, the grease gun was an interesting one because it was designed to be as cheap as possible, so they could build them for like $15 a unit.
To make.
Yep, and it actually ended up working very well because of the slow rate of fire. It didn't climb. So you just hold your sight on the target and just hold down the trigger until it went away.
Yeah. And those of us in the military are taught to lean into our weapons anyway.
Yeah.
So when we fire like automatic, we lean into it, so our weight counterbalances the rise of the weapon.
And these days, we also try to build muzzle devices with compensators essentially built into them, so that the escaping gas out of the barrel.
Don't know what a compensator is. If you want to explain it,
compensator is basically part of your muzzle device at the end of the barrel, and a lot of them are cut unevenly. So that because of how certain weapons tend to recoil, like the AK is a perfect example. The reason the AKM has that slight triangular muzzle brake that's off center is because the AK-47 tends to fire high tends to climb high and right. So they put that device there so it's deflecting most of the escaping gas high into the right, so it's pushing the gun back down.
And by the way, one of the things I really like about this weapon in particular is that one of the safety features on it is it won't fire unless you open the port. You have to open it and it unlocks the weapon. It's really kind of cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool submachine guns from this era because they were really starting to play around with what that does and how cheaply you can make a very effective weapon.
And so true. And by the way, also mentioning the 45 is I love the greatest safety on that is the fact that it has in the grip right here. There's a separate piece in the handle. You'll see it if you look at photos of the 45, 1911. And you'll notice there's a separate piece there, and you have to depress it by squeezing the weapon for the weapon to fire.
And they actually added a second safety on the thumb safety for the A1.
Yep, the thumb safety.
Because what was happening was guys would go into their holster for their pistol and unknowingly push the gun hard enough that it would the trigger would catch on the holster, and they'd put one into their leg.
Yeah, one of the worst pistols I ever fired, by the way, was the Spanish Star. You ever fire one?
I have not. I've seen them though. They're interesting.
I kept tearing the flap here.
Hammer bite.
Because the way the safety was designed, that when you lean forward, you have to turn your hand to hit the release, and that slide would catch that skin every single time.
Yeah.
So I learned to use my left hand to release the slide.
The 1911 had a similar problem during the prototype. That's why that has that beaver tail at the end of on the top of the handle. Is because the hammer would come down and whack you in the hand if you had too high a grip on it.
Man, some people are here. I paused it because this is the scene where he's on the poster for some reason, but he's been wounded and he can't walk. And this is a top secret mission. And so they can't just leave him there. And so everybody goes, well, I'll do it. And Sam Neill ends up being the guy who chooses to go back and talks to him, offers him a cigarette, and then walks around the side of him. And as he's talking, puts a bullet in his head.
That shocked me.
No, I was expecting that.
I was too.
Yeah.
Because it is a top secret mission. And as commandos on a mission like this, if he knows what they're doing, he's not just a foot soldier, he knows the mission. So they can't allow him to fall into enemy hands.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's
unfortunate. You can tell by his face, he knows what's about to happen.
Well, yeah, I think they all were briefed on that. Like, look, if you're wounded, it's not going to go well.
I see. Who all is here? We got Kingsport Cal in the chat. D. Bud Martin, Sci-Fi Mombi, of course. Read by Nature. Penny is here. Dragon Ruse, awesome one in deleted scenes. So I'm going to go through some of the private chat here, or not the private chat, the main chat, and I start a few. First is R. Wrench, D. Bud Martin. Good to see you, my friend. Good to see you.
Give him his video.
Jagari has referred to his backdoor opener by his drill instructor. Give D. Bud Martin his video, Martin.
Do we have anything here? Yes, wild geese for you.
Car just pulled up to the back door.
Problem with Richard Harris, he delivers everything quickly.
Hello. Can you hear?
And by the way, hail to Pope Metallicus from D. Bud Martin.
Hey, good to see you, D. Bud. I'll be seeing you again later for It's Only Talk and Roll.
I'm going to try to make it to that today because he's talking about a movie I love. Kingsport Cal says, I'm alive.
Good for you.
Always a good thing.
And he also says, never heard of this film, came out the year I was born. Let's see, Morning Pop Culture Minefield from Sci-Fi Mombi. Says hi to everybody, Pope, everyone. That's awesome. Thank you. Read by Nature says, hail Gary and company. And D. Bud Martin, Pope thought it came from Highlander and Queen. You want to live forever. Yeah. My cousin tried to join the Royal Marines twice.
And that's an interesting relationship we have because I've never
Very
seen
close relationship.
I've
with
never
Royal
seen
Marines,
two countries branches have a closer relationship than the Royal and American Marines. We've trained with them. We've actually deployed together, and those guys are absolutely awesome.
Yeah, and what's funny is, our special forces, the actual special forces, owe everything to the British for the SAS.
Yeah, the British kind of prototyped the whole thing for everyone in NATO.
Yes, they did.
Because the SAS are just a bunch of crazy bastards.
Our green, Delta Force, the guy who headed up Delta Force, Green Beret, trained with the SAS.
Yep.
And he brought everything they taught him here. So that's good stuff, man. I had a buddy who told me many tales of the Marines boot camp, so I always think of them as drill instructors. And you're rightly so. Let's see. Back Porch Gary, awesome one, gets a video too. Give him a video.
Okay. Kelly's Heroes, of course.
Cowboy, check around and see if there's a back door.
Yeah, nothing better than Don Rickles saying back door.
I love seeing Don Rickles in a war movie too, because I'm used to him in all the comedic roles and stuff like that. And then you see him in stuff like that. It's like, wait a minute, what?
Well, that was a comedy.
Well, yeah.
He's a Man with the X-Ray Eyes is a classic sci-fi film with Ray Milland, but Don Rickles is in it too, in a serious role.
Okay. But it's like seeing Robin Williams in a serious role. You almost never expect it.
But when he does it, holy smoke, he's really good.
He's amazing at
24
it.
It was 24-hour photo. Was the one. Man,
that's a great role for him. My favorite has always been him in Good Will Hunting, because you get a fair amount of the comedy in there, but the serious parts where he's like actually, playing it straight is just insane.
But his improv stories were fucking hilarious in there.
Oh, yeah.
I love that ending when he improvised the line, "The kid stole my line."
Yep.
It's good stuff. So what we're heading here toward at this moment, they're getting ready to now, has he already killed? I missed it. Did he kill the Chinese dude?
Yes.
Yes. That bugged me.
Yes.
And I know why
sense.
they had to do it, but it still bothers me because he's an innocent person. And it's because they're afraid of word getting back to the Japanese they're there. And I'm like, oh man, that's a thin excuse for killing, just murder.
Why would he tell the Japanese? They're their enemies too.
Well, some of the Chinese were working with them.
Some of them were, yes.
Because they were terrified of what the Japanese would do.
I don't know if they called them in China, but I know like in France, we called them Vichy.
Yep.
French. Because they were working with the Third Reich.
And I don't understand this phenomenon that, everyone rightly so jumps on Germany for what they did during World War II, but Japan kind of skates on a lot of the stuff they were up to.
It's kind of problematic when you look at the war crime trials, that the Japanese really got soft-soaped compared to the way we treated the Germans.
And if you've ever heard of like Unit 731, that was basically the Japanese version of the SS, and they actually had a couple of observers who were
They're
from
mentioned
the
in a few films, and they were.
And they had a couple of observers from the SS, and the stuff the Japanese were doing made the SS officers sick.
They somehow managed to cover up a lot. And I mean, to this day, they don't teach the whole story in history at schools, which is fucked up.
No, I mean, the only place it's taught is in China and Korea, which was on the receiving end of it.
Well, a lot of my Japanese friends that are from Japan have told me that World War II history of what they did during World War II is not taught in schools.
No, it isn't. It isn't.
It is not, no. But that
so many citizens aren't even aware of what they did.
Yeah.
From the Bataan Death March to, how they treated their POWs, the building of the Chinese railroad, that they would starve people. And allow them to just die as they're walking along building this road.
And they were also doing the same kind of medical experiments and things like that Joseph Mengele was doing, just even worse.
They were monsters.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go through some more starred comments here, deleted scenes. Welcome to the show, my friend. Great choice. First saw it on cable back in the day. First time I'd seen most of the actors in a movie. For me, Mel Gibson was Mad Max, and the first with Sam Neill was the third Damien Omen movie.
I'll always remember Sam Neill from Jurassic Park because that came out when I was, I think, 7.
In the 90s, yeah.
Yeah, to me, he's Merlin. He will always be Merlin for me.
I don't know what was said, but hey, phrasing was mentioned by deleted scenes.
You said not everybody squirts.
Oh.
When you talked about shooting people. And
Hi, Kingsport Cal. Dragon Ruse is here. Good to see you, Dragon Ruse. More friendly nature. Saw someone on Rogan talking about a round like that. Guy shot a deer, missed, but bullet was close enough. The force sucked the deer's eye out. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like something like a 338. Those things are absolutely monstrous.
John Waters was a star in Australia. I remember him from all the... Oh, you're not talking about John Waters. You're talking about the John that's in the John Philip Law. I remember him from all the Rivers Run miniseries from around, because John Waters is the director, gay director, openly flaming gay director. Am I correct here, or is there another John Waters?
Which back in these days, that was actually kind of out there for Hollywood at the time.
Yeah, John Waters was in the fringe back in the day. He was not respected in Hollywood. Now he is, but back in the 80s, he made weird movies. And they are weird, but I love them. They're fucking weird though.
Well, I mean, that works for some guys. I mean, look at Stanley Kubrick. His movies are weird as hell, but they're usually really damn good.
Yeah, I'm going to try to make that show today because A Boy and His Dog, what a great flick.
Certainly interesting.
I love the ending.
And you can always tell you can tell just by watching it that the guys who made the original Fallout are absolutely fans of that movie.
That's a good question. D-Bud wants to know if you saw CPO Sharky.
I haven't seen that. I actually should go and watch a lot of the older war movies.
I haven't. But I do believe it is free right now. At least I think 2 seasons are free on Amazon's Freevee.
Okay. We have to check that out.
And I highly recommend it. That show would crack me up. Here. One of my favorite videos. Are you ready? Are you ready?
I know.
I'm going to pause this. This guy does not look Chinese.
No.
This guy is clearly Japanese. So here we go.
What about you, Rodriguez? You got anything to say?
Yes, sir, but it's very difficult, sir, and I don't think you'll understand.
Well, try me. Let me hear.
Okay, sir. Mire, jefe, yo no sabía que yo iba a trabajar más fuerte que el caballo de mi tío. El pobre se cayó muerto de tanto trabajar.
I'm gonna put you on a pickup truck, send you back home for the annual banana festival. And if that don't work, I'm gonna shoot your donkey.
I just fucking love that.
So another show you could never make now.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
He says I'm turning Japanese. I really think so. And yep, Google Unit 731 and they then try to sleep. Yeah.
Tim, what the hell? You're getting late to the show that you asked for.
I know.
And by the way, let me run his video. Where it is? Yeah.
By what name are you known?
There are some who call me Tim.
Yeah, you have to know Tim is our diva. He gets cranky when he doesn't get his video. So
Nanking is infamous. Yes, it is. There's a special word used with that we're not allowed to say on YouTube, but it's spelled, let's see, Romeo, October, Papa, Echo.
And one of the few times I've heard that word used,
Alpha.
and it's an understatement.
Yeah, it's just I don't know why we can't use that word. It's a simple fucking word.
Because people don't want to talk about difficult or controversial things, apparently, which is unfortunate because that's the stuff we really need to talk about.
Yeah, but people nowadays get upset with every shit. So.
True.
Yeah. Hi, Cam. What's up? Hi, everyone listening and doing chores. The Commandos/SAS, just like the SOE, are the forerunners of Special Forces and CIA, respectively. We adapted. Well, CIA is the renaming of the OSS, because the head of the OSS became the head of the CIA. We adapted these organizations in World War II, developed by the British and evolved. Absolutely. That's why I thought it was funny, like in a film that we're going to be doing in the near future. In the film, they don't say MI6. They call it M9, a fictional name. It's kind of weird that at one time MI6 was considered secret.
Well, a lot of this stuff was so new back then that nobody was really allowed to talk about it. Like the OSS couldn't even be mentioned up until like the 60s. Everything was still classified.
Yeah, and by the way, the show that we're talking about is Danger Man.
Okay.
Also known as Secret Agent here in the U.S.
Which, if you guys are into spy thrillers, look into some of the activities of the SOE and the OSS during World War II, because it's crazier than some of the spy novels you've read.
Well, I told people that really what Ian Fleming created was troublemakers.
Yep.
He wanted people comfortable with causing trouble, which is why I want to see this movie so bad, to see if they get it right, because they were serious troublemakers. They would just go and just fuck with people and fuck with things and behind the lines and just make a mess and make the Germans like cautious, more cautious than they should be. They're like, we're going to send people over there to fuck with you.
Well, and it was almost like what happened during the Normandy airborne drops, where everything was so scattered, they couldn't figure out where the main focus of our attack was, because there wasn't one. It was just a bunch of paratroopers running all over the landscape, blowing stuff up and causing mayhem.
Yeah. By the way, Reed says another military sitcom show you couldn't make today is Ain't Half Hot Mom. Not just language, but a guy in brown face, Windsor Davies in great is great though. I've never even heard of that one. I know the show My Dad's Army. I've watched that.
Dad's Army's great.
Yeah. Is it Dad's Army or My Dad's Army?
Dad's Army, I believe.
Okay. It's a good show, either way. And they made a film too, didn't they?
Did they? I don't think I've ever seen that.
That is really weird. And you know what's even weirder is Martin's already seen, what did you go see? Fall Guy.
Yes.
In Mexico.
Really? That's already out there?
Yeah.
Oh.
And they were publicizing it that they're going to release it on May the 3rd, and then boom, I saw it this Saturday.
Oh.
And
okay.
even in the theater, their poster says May the 3rd. Okay. I guess I'm lucky.
Weird.
This is my favorite scene in Predator.
But when you look at the setup, it kind of is a similar start off to Predator, just set in World War II rather than the 80s.
What I'd like to do, because my least favorite thing about this movie is the soundtrack. I hate the soundtrack. The scoring is just terrible. It's almost as bad as Mad Max.
Oh, the original Mad Max is not great.
God, that fucking soundtrack. The echoey strings and shit, I hated it. By the way, Anima says, "What is that box on his back?" And I said, "I assume that's a radio." And later I found out I was right.
Yeah. The old radio telephones back then were not
Use the
portable.
voice. It's not a voice radio. It's
It's a telegraph set.
yeah. But I really do. I do like this film. I just can't say it's great.
It really is not great.
I would refer to this as a good film, not great. It's got a terrible soundtrack. The action is, it's okay. It's not great. Unrealistic when they get into the village battle at the end.
Yeah.
But I do think the ending is pretty realistic in that the operation is an absolute failure and it cuts to show all the dead people.
Yep.
It's like all these people died and the operation was an absolute failure.
Man, and the realization of that in Mel Gibson's face is priceless.
Yeah,
Like-
when he sits down and he's like, well, fuck. He doesn't say anything, but you see that that's what he's thinking. Fuck.
Yeah, and another movie that's kind of like this, and this is the era where like war movies didn't always have a happy ending for the main characters. Gallipoli is my favorite example. I absolutely love that movie, where you get to know these guys over the course of a 2-hour movie, and then at the end they all get cut down in a hail of gunfire.
Yeah. Yeah, that guy doesn't even remotely look Chinese. And it says that he was born in China, but his last name is Ko. And Ko is, I know that it is what it means in Japanese. I think it means dog or something like that. But either way it goes, is I think this guy is Chinese-born Japanese, like actually Toshiro Mifune was.
Yep.
Toshiro Mifune was born to 2 Japanese missionaries who lived in China, and he was born in China. There's a lot of Japanese people born and end up staying in China.
And especially about the late 1940s, early 1950s, there was a lot of half Chinese people being born around this era.
Yep. Anima hates their headgear, but their headgear was made for a specific reason.
It looks so stupid.
It kept them cool.
Yep.
And kept bugs off their necks too.
That makes sense.
But there it is,
Goofy.
grease gun with a suppressor on it, long ass suppressor, barrel extension, which not only helps suppress the sound of the weapon's fire, it also made the weapon more accurate.
Yep. And also deleted any kind of muzzle flash you would get out of it, so you were very, very hard to locate.
Yeah, because today we have what's referred to as 2 different kinds of suppressors. There's sound suppressors and there's flash suppressors. And they're designed differently today, but they're often equipped together. You'll see them attached.
Well, these days, a lot of the modern suppressors it's actually a 2-part system where it's a flash suppressor that acts as almost a mounting lug for a sound suppressor.
A sound suppressor, yep.
But back during World War II, suppressors were just becoming a thing. Like, they were not commonly available. Like, these guys were obviously better equipped than your average trooper.
Absolutely. And I always found it funny because Hollywood didn't know how to use suppressors early on. You'd see guys putting suppressors on revolvers, and I'm like, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because the sound isn't coming from the front of the barrel, it's coming from where that little gap between
and then of course
chamber
the typical
the
Hollywood suppressor myth of it basically makes the gun completely silent, where
it's like, no,
most of the time that's not true. There's only one weapon I've ever shot that was actually pretty much true, and that's the MP5 SD.
And it's one of the things about that is because it's such a small round.
Well, and it's also the entire barrel, the suppressor is built into it.
Yep.
So it's a very, very quiet gun to the point where you can hear the action over the shot.
Mechanical action on it. And I tell people all the time, I said, the reason why, because the saw and the M16 fired the same round. But why is the saw so much louder? I said, because it's got open area in the back.
Yep.
Where it feeds from the nutsack into the weapon. And by the way, I love that. I've always loved it because civilians like, what the fuck are you saying? I'm like,
you love nutsacks?
A nutsack. Every machine gunner loves a nutsack.
Yeah, because it keeps your ammo from, just spilling out all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean,
and a lot of people don't know that there was a
belt.
nutsack for the M60 too.
Yeah, I mean, we had them for our 240s because it just keeps you having a 100-round belt just kind of lying around out there.
But the saw is loud because it's got an open firing mechanism. Not to mention mechanical action is loud too.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a full-on machine gun, so just that bolt grip weighs almost as much as the M16 does.
Yeah. So yeah, it fires the same round. Why is it so much louder? I said, because you're exposed to more of the round being fired and the mechanical aspects of it.
It's also firing it at 800 rounds a minute rather than, a single shot.
What is it? M16 with full automatic. I'm trying to remember what was it. It's not
about 750 usually.
Yeah, 750. I like it when they finally give him a gun. They trust him enough now to give him a gun. And he give him a shitty fucking revolver. He looks at it like, what's that gonna do me?
It's like, we trust you, but not that much.
Martin shared it. I love nutsacks, Gary, 2024.
If only that was the most fucked up thing you said so far this year.
I'd say
it's
a lot.
Not even close.
And
you're not even there when we hang out in private.
Quite intentional. I do it quite intentionally most of the time.
I know.
Mostly.
Allegedly.
Oh God, not that again.
Always.
You will have that in your mind the whole day.
I thought this is a weird kill right here, like using the phone cord. That's not a guaranteed way of fucking doing it. That cord might snap. You don't know how well made that phone is.
Yeah,
that's
an
stab him
interesting one
in the kidneys, and you grab him with a chokehold, like the half Nelson. At the same time, pull him back onto the blade. It's like that was a weird kill.
That's what we do. Even today, that's how we're trained to do it.
Yeah. By the way, one of my favorite moments in a film depicting something like that is Russell Crowe in Proof of Life.
Yep.
When he kills a guy with a blade, he throws up.
Yeah.
Because I said that actually happens quite often with guys when they stab somebody.
For the first time, yeah.
For the first time, or even after that, because it's psychologically, it has an impact on human beings, no matter how well trained you are.
Yep. And the best story I've ever heard with that in Hollywood still has to be Christopher Lee and Peter Jackson during Lord of the Rings.
We've talked about that quite often.
Peter,
I love
that
that
is
story.
not what a man sounds like when he is being stabbed.
Not what a man sounds.
Oh, that's one of my favorite stories.
Yeah, and that's one of those just especially if you're a civilian, you're just like, I'm not going to ask how you know that.
Because he was one of the commandos.
Yep.
He was first cousin with Ian Fleming, and he was in Ian Fleming's Ungentlemanly Warfare group. And he killed a lot of fucking people. In fact, somebody referred to him as a legal murderer.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Because that's all that is. All combat is your government sanctioned murder.
Pretty much.
It's still the same act of killing somebody. It really is. Gibson really is good in this. I just think that he is not well used in it.
Well, that's always the trick with younger actors, especially, is, when you've got a body of work behind you, directors can really get a feel for who you are and what role you're good in and how to use you. I mean, Mel was probably, 25, 26 in this one?
Yeah, he was young.
So, they're still like, yeah, you're good. Like, don't get me wrong, we loved you in Mad Max, but I think The Road Warrior just come out when this movie was getting made.
Road Warrior came out in 82 in Australia. And then
it would have been right about this time that they were making it.
Let me just double check on this real quick. I'll go to IMDb and look at it because I'm not totally sure on that. I know that it was the year before we got it. And when it got released here, it's just simply referred to as The Road Warrior, not Mad Max 2 Road Warrior. See, he did this film.
Yeah, this one came out in 81.
He did this film. He did Gallipoli. That was 81. Both shot in 80.
Yeah.
Then later in the year, because he shot it in 1980. He shot all 3 films in 1980: Attack Force Z, Gallipoli, and Mad Max 2.
Busy year for him.
Yeah, 3 movies in 1 year.
That's a busy schedule for anybody.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like he was a bit part player in one of them and could kind of like, he was only on set for a couple of days. He was a star in all 3.
And of course, before that, he did a film, a TV series called Cop Shop. I got to check that out. An Australian show called Cop Shop. Because I love the new movie with the Scotsman from 300. Oh my God, it's a good movie, Cop Shop. He did a little film called The Hero, and then did Mad Max. And then he did that movie Tim, which is a really weird film if you've never seen it. It stars Piper Laurie, Mel Gibson.
Oh, Kings, didn't you hear it? They were talking about that.
Who was?
Oh, you were talking about the 1911, and apparently King's Porcard didn't hear it. She's asking what's the significance of the gun.
Well, the 1911 came about because we did have a .45 revolver, and that's ended up being one of the things they handed out in the war with the Moors in the Philippines, because the 1911 didn't come out until 1911, hence the name, and it ended up being predominantly used in World War II. Even though, oddly, my grandfather carried a Webley. Holstered Webley along with the machine gun that he mounted. And again, I want to point out, by the way, he was a cannoneer, my grandfather.
Yep, artilleryman, yep. And the 1911 was our first semi-automatic service pistol that we ever built, and became kind of the gold standard for all semi-automatics from 1910 roughly
and it still
until
is. It's still one of the greatest pistols out there.
And was in service with the U.S. military from 1911 till 1985.
Yep. I ended up carrying one in 1990.
Yeah, they started phasing it out in 85, and some units never got rid of them. The Marine Corps kept the 1911s in service well into the 2010s.
I asked our supply sergeant, and I said, I don't like these Berettas. You got anything better, like 45? And he goes, oh, yeah. He gave me 45.
I wish we had them, because when we were overseas, the Beretta's a nice pistol. Don't get me wrong, for certain things. It was not made for a desert environment, because that open top just builds up that very fine moon dust. And it got to the point where I literally fired one round. The thing didn't even cycle, and I had to beat the gun open to actually get the slide back.
Wow!
To unload the gun, it was absolutely nuts.
Not a fan of the Beretta. I'm not a fan of 9mm to begin with. It's a small round, and it's like you got to put multiple rounds in somebody to take them down.
That's less true now that we have things like hollow points and stuff like that. But yeah, the original 9mm were not great.
Yeah, if you're using hollow points, change the game with any weapon. But when you're using ball ammunition, it's a useless pistol.
It depends on the pistol too. The P226 was really good. The SEALs used them for a lot of years. Obviously, the Glocks are in heavy carry use by police departments and just everyday citizens all over the U.S. But yeah, I gotta agree that the 45 is the better cartridge.
Yeah, it's a guarantee one-shot takedown. It's just you're going to take them down. It can't guarantee it's a kill.
Nope, but you can guarantee he's dropping.
He's dropping. He's out of the game. But hey, I see Vinkman's girl is here. So Peter Vinkman fan site's here. Good morning.
Hey, how's it going?
But that is how it came. It's because of the Moor Wars in the Philippines. A lot of people don't know that we still have special forces operations going on in the Philippines all the time.
Yeah, I've actually always enjoyed the relationship between the U.S. and the Philippines in that they used to be one of our colonies, and it was like one of the most amicable, departures I've ever seen. Where after World War II, they're like, "Yeah, can we be like our own country?" We're like, "Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You guys still want to be like best friends, though?"
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
You're not a territory anymore. Well, you're your own sovereign country. Do you want us to stay here? Hell, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's just like they're not technically part of the U.S. anymore, but we're still like best friends, and just like, yeah, if anybody messes with you, let us know.
It's funny. I think the depiction of the Japanese in this is mostly realistic.
Yeah, they did not treat civilians well.
The one character I didn't like was the leader who ends up being killed, the first commander, because he's a little bit too nice. And I'm like, no, the Japanese were never nice to the Chinese.
Yeah, no, they at the very least would have been.
Yeah, this guy he ends
professional.
up getting killed. They show him a little too sympathetic, and I didn't like that because it's not realistic.
Yeah, these guys were absolute monsters to
they
Chinese
were
civilians.
trained that way. They were raised that way. They were created that way because they really do that. At that time, they saw the emperor as a living god.
That was one of the things we were terrified about, and one of the reasons we decided to drop the atomic bombs on Japan rather than invade on the ground is we saw that, if you guys have ever seen Okinawa on a map, it is not a big island, and we were fighting there for 82 days.
It was some of the worst combat. And here's the thing. We kept trying to talk to them, and Hirohito kept shining us on, saying, oh, yeah, we'll be there for the signing of a treaty. Yeah, and it just wouldn't get back to us. And then word got back through intelligence that they were filling caves up with weaponry and converting some caves into launch pads. They would launch airplanes from inside.
Dude, they were doing that in a mountain. They were hollowing a mountain.
Yeah, we're talking like supervillain levels of
crazy shit. And when Harry Truman heard that, and that basically the Joint Chiefs said, look, if we continue this war and have to go into Japan, invade it, millions are going to die on both sides. It's just going to be one of the bloodiest wars you've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, my grandfather was a Marine in the Pacific during that period, and because he joined in 42, went on to Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Saipan, and Iwo Jima, and they were reconstituting units from Iwo Jima for the push onto Japan.
Yeah, everybody was terrified of it.
The casualty estimate was we were going to lose a quarter of the Marine Corps day one.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Day one.
Yeah, when you look at even Iwo Jima, that was only an 8 square mile island. It took us 36 days to secure it, and some units took upwards of 80% casualties.
It's ridiculous, and we couldn't do that. And so Truman, by himself, made the decision: we're going to drop not one, we're going to drop 2 bombs. The first one to be the exclamation, the top of the exclamation point, and the second one to be the dot at the bottom, and let them know we've got more than one, and we will keep making them.
And the funny part is, it's a really good thing they surrendered after number 2 because we didn't have a third one.
No, we didn't, but we could have made one. But it
would have taken us like 6 months to make enough fissile material for a third bomb. So we're just like, yeah, we've got another one and we'll use it again. So you better surrender now.
So, but immediately Japan surrendered because they saw the hundreds of thousands of deaths. And yeah, people today look at it with a modern eye and don't know their history, that we saved millions of lives on both sides.
And to win that war conventionally on the ground, we probably would, I mean, it would have been the end of the Japanese civilization.
It would have been bad. You know, it's like the closest thing to the Vietnam War we ever had was fighting the Japanese in the islands.
Which is a large portion of the reason they weren't allowed to have a military after that war.
Yep.
We never want to fight them again.
And they've agreed to it. They've stuck to it. They're a very good ally. They were a good ally to the United States until World War II. And
yeah, I mean, when you look at the relationship between Japan and America, we've had a fairly amicable relationship for most of our history, and then the worst war that's ever been fought.
Yep. It's the toughest jungle warfare before Vietnam.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that when we fought the North Koreans, we were actually fighting a lot of Chinese.
Oh, yeah.
Many battles that were fought in the Korean War weren't even fighting the North Koreans. We were fighting Chinese.
And then in the air, a large number of Russian MiG pilots that they were sending over to North Korea to get actual combat experience.
We were at war with communism. And then we surrendered to it. And communism is all over the United States now. It's just ridiculous.
The world, my man, the world. That shit spread like a bad, ugly fart.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. All the teachers, the good teachers started retiring, and then we started getting all these socialists in the school system. They infiltrated, and they started, not just to do that, they were doing it to educate the kids. And they've been doing that since the late 60s. And so that's why we have so many socialists in this country.
Well, if you notice, like, you know, they talk about like the Red Scare and stuff like that in school now, and like it was a ridiculous notion. It wasn't. It was a thing that was happening all over the country.
They could do.
I mean, there'd been communist or literally Soviet agents in Hollywood, you know, mostly in the labor unions and news organizations since the 30s that we knew about.
Yeah. And they nearly won during the Depression. And Franklin Delano Roosevelt is the only reason why socialists didn't take over then, because he adopted social programs.
He caved to them enough that they kind of shut up for a while.
Yep. That's where Social Security came from, the welfare system, the public school system, the way it's set up now. All of that was done under FDR to appease the socialists, to keep them at bay.
Because as we all know, appeasement works great.
Yeah. And by the way, they confronted him right here because of the fact that he knows who their target is. And Mel's character is like, yo, man, how do you know that? Puts his weapon on him. And the reason why is because he's the one who helped smuggle them out of the plane. His people. Yeah, see, it's not Dutch that's on the cover. It's this dude. The one with the doofus face all the time. He's a mouth breather. But it's, you know, military films are great films to start careers on.
Yeah, because it's more about the ensemble, like the whole cast rather than just you. I mean, look at the cast of Platoon, for example. Literally everyone in that movie went on to be famous.
Because I work for Dale Dye, you know, one of the things that I've learned from them is a lot of actors who want to make a change in their career will go into a military film to change their career.
Yeah. And a lot of war movies have large casts with one or two big stars in it that if, you know, you are a young up and coming actor and you want to impress somebody, those are the guys you want to impress.
Right. Now, I do want to point out that the dude that's working with them is involved with that Chinese girl. And I don't think they did a very good job of explaining their relationship in the film, because they're trying to create a love triangle between John Philip Law, her, and that dude.
What dude?
That's going along with them.
No, he's his father, her father.
I never got that.
Yeah, he's her father.
Me neither. I didn't get that.
Yeah, we watched it. I did not get that.
They say it like 3 times
in English,
Really?
because there are no subtitles for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yes, they always said it in Chinese.
Yeah, we couldn't find a
makes
version
sense
that
then.
had subtitles. So whenever they were talking Chinese, we had to guess what's going on.
Thanks for piping in after the fact, Steven. Awesome. Good job. You know,
Yeah,
see the giant bullet hole in the shirt.
Yeah,
like, who the fuck
mystery
was
wound.
in charge of making bullet holes in clothes? I hope they never worked in film again.
That is not an exit wound. That is the entry. It's ridiculous.
That's fucking ridiculous.
They were making
this
sure.
pissed me off. That's their drinking water, too, as well as for the farming, the irrigation. And he just kicks this dead body into the water. I'm like, why would you do that?
It's going away from the village.
I don't know. I didn't like that. That bothered
But
me.
you're right.
He
that
probably is fucking up another village, but that's
As a medic, I would never allow somebody to do that.
Yeah, that's one of those like that's gonna poison the whole village if that's upstream. It's one of those accidental war crimes, like you poisoned this whole village. Did we have any guys in that area? Yeah. Uh-oh.
Remember the big movie he's best known for? John Philip Love?
No, man, no.
He's the love interest for Jane Fonda in was it Galaxina? No, what was that name of that movie she did?
Barbarella.
Barbarella, yeah.
Oh, okay.
He was a star, but he never really became the movie star he could have been. He's a good actor.
And there's a lot of actors like that are kind of like they're in everything, but no one really knows who they are.
Well, he kept traveling too much, and he'd spend years in Europe making European films because he spoke fluent French and German.
Don't say that like it's a bad thing.
Doing that with your career is bad because it can kill your career as an actor.
It would be like a professional baseball player at the height of his career saying, "Oh, I'm going to go play in Japan for a while."
Yeah, no, don't do that. You'll kill your career. Although there is a movie about a guy being traded to Japan that I love, Mr. Baseball, with Tom Selleck.
Oh yeah, I know the movie you're talking about. That's a good film, actually.
I love that fucking movie, dude.
I did like too how most of this movie is shot where it's very grounded and very kind of focused in on them rather than like this big sweeping thing that a lot of movies will do for, a lot of extended shots where like, it's a big sweeping view of the landscape.
Directors that focus on shooting footage of nature.
Yeah.
They didn't have too big a budget. That's probably
I hate saying it's about Terrence Malick, but Terrence Malick is why what is that movie called?
The Thin Red Line?
The Thin Red Line is so bad.
Oh yeah, God.
Terrible.
I wanted that movie to be good so badly, and it's really just not.
By the way, I got kicked from a group because a guy said that Fife was the main character in Thin Red Line. I said, no, he's not. He's the third character. The main characters are the sergeant and the kid that he's butting heads with.
Yeah.
They've always been the main characters in the book, the previous film, and in this film.
Yeah,
and somebody kicked me out of the group because I corrected this guy. I'm like, Fife is the third character.
Dare you?
And they fucking just banned me from the group because I corrected the guy. And I'm like, it's not like I called him a dickhead or an asshole or a child rapist. I said he's wrong. That's not who the main character is.
Well, I mean, this is the 21st century. Telling people they're wrong is violence.
Yeah, right? He just couldn't handle that.
Yeah, it's like my answer to that is, I'll tell you what, you say the worst you can do to me and I'm going to beat you, and let's see who ends up walking away.
Yeah, right. Not to mention, especially coming from the rock and metal community, what is the one way to guarantee we're going to do or say something? Tell us not to say it.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you didn't like that word, did you? Oh, you're going to love this one.
Oh, you don't want me to say such and such word? What's wrong with such and such word? Right. So such and such bothers you. You find that word and you just keep repeating it at the person, like you're posing a question. Very annoying to them.
Well, it's like when the black metal scene started in 1980, where it was like the 70s, like the whole satanic panic. Everyone's like, no, we don't worship the devil. We're not really like that. And then Venom comes out with Welcome to Hell in 1981 with a goat's head and a pentagram on the album cover.
Yeah. There are guys out there just seem to be working against the cause.
You're right. Everyone else is just like, did we mention they're not with us?
Yeah, because I remember when I was a kid, I'd listen to Kiss, and my dad was going on, they're satanic. Their name is satanic. Knights in Satan's service. I went, oh, is that what that means? Oh, cool. I was a devout Catholic. I was an altar boy, but I still listen to that music. It didn't make me evil. And I still consider Beth one of the best love songs ever written.
Fair point.
Not the best, because Peter Gabriel wrote that, but Beth is up there in the top 10.
Oh, we're going to start a fight here.
They cut all his scenes because he's not the lead character. He's not. And it didn't make sense to the story for him to be the lead character. The two main characters' conflict is the main part of that story between the sergeant and the other. I forget his name right now. I just remember Fife. Detroit Rock City. Yeah. So, it's just, again, this just shows how stupid Malick is, that he was going to make Fife the lead character.
Yeah, there was a lot of decisions made on that movie that just make zero sense.
The best part of that film is what Dale Dye was in charge of. And
yeah, the actual combat scenes are fairly decent. It's just everything else that's completely off the wall.
Well, it's the same thing it's the same issue I have with Saving Private Ryan. Everything that was directed by Steven Spielberg fucking annoyed me.
Yeah.
The only thing that was good was the combat scenes, and they were all directed by Dale Dye. He actually directed those scenes. Got no credit for it.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. No credit at all. Fucked up.
Like, I think you and me have talked about it before. That scene with them all walking along the ridgeline.
Oh,
yeah.
Easily silhouetted.
They're walking up the ridgeline. Yeah, you don't do that.
Yeah, and like every grunt ever is like, what the fuck are you doing?
You're supposed to be about 15 feet apart.
Well, not only that, you're supposed, like, if you're cresting a ridgeline like that, you get down on the ground and crawl over the hill.
I'm talking about later when they're walking through German occupied France. They're supposed to be, is it 15 meters apart? 15 meters. And, or no. Yeah. It's 15 meters.
Between 10 and 15 meters.
And you're not supposed to talk. You're supposed to do hand gesture and then rally. And then you come together and then you whisper. And then you separate and you do it again. You would not, in that situation, you would do a wedge formation. You do a staggered formation.
Yeah. And also, I mean, even back then, they're walking through an open field when there's clearly foliage cover on either side of them.
Yeah.
It's like,
And
no.
then like the guy's telling him, you need to stop saluting the captain in the field, man. You're going to get him shot. And I remember like saying to the screen in the theater going, maybe you should cover up those captain's bars on his helmet too.
Well, I mean, those were a thing back then because snipers were a brand new thing in warfare. But even still,
officers had a choice in the field whether to have their rank on there, and they chose to do it occasionally to make sure their men knew it. But it really was a target.
Oh yeah.
The other thing that was a target was a Red Cross, which is why for decades the highest casualty rate in the U.S. military were medics.
Well, that's part of the reason, and the other half of the reason is, well, you guys are really willingly running over to where someone just got shot.
Towards the fire, not away from it.
Yeah.
It is the reason to watch it. And what's really funny, Deleted, when we watched it, I pretty much fast forwarded through everything until we would get to a point where I knew it was going to get good.
And I'm telling you, man, I'm not watching
so
that
Anima
one
didn't
again.
have to suffer to the dumb shit that's in that fucking movie.
I'm just so glad we decided not to do a
that
show
whole
about
opening scene is one of the dumbest fucking things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It only needed to be a couple minutes long to establish what was going on there. You didn't. I refer to Thin Red Line is basically Terrence Malick masturbating in public.
Pretty much. And it's not even just that, long war films don't do well. Hell, Gettysburg is one of my favorite war movies of all time. But every scene in that movie needed to be there. Whereas the Thin Red Line, you could cut out easily a third of the film and make it better.
Well, one of the rules, and I just talked to somebody last night about it, that one of the first rules you learn in screenwriting is that every bit of dialogue is there to push the story forward. And this is my complaint with, many directors, but Quentin Tarantino in particular, because so many of his scenes can take place at any point in a film.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. A movie, the best example of a movie is a joke. How to tell a story in a movie is the same thing as how you tell a joke. You have your setup, your stretch to build, tension, or to make the person think where it's going to go. And then with irony, the turn.
Yep.
That's the punchline. It's the same thing in filmmaking. And you can't, if you know how to tell a story, you cannot tell the story in any different order than the way it's written, because then it won't work. It's the same thing with a joke. If you tell the joke in the wrong order, it makes no sense.
And that's one of the problems with modern screenwriting in a lot of ways is it's all set up. There's never a payoff for half of it. It's like telling the first half of every joke and then never telling any of the punchlines. Just like, where are we going with this? You're just going to leave that there?
Yeah. Part of why you don't see officers wear swords, this going far back, it was a signifier to snipers.
Yep.
And you know what? It's funny. We all hate snipers when it's the enemy, but we love our snipers.
We love them, but we're also slightly terrified of them.
Yeah.
Because I've met a bunch of snipers and they're just wrong in the head.
Because they get to look right at and target who they're going to kill. So many a times when you're returning fire, you're trying to hit somebody. There's no guarantee.
Well, that and they are.
See, that wasn't in the version we saw where she says, "I'm sorry, Father." So their relationship is really confusing to Anima and me.
Yeah, it sounds like there's multiple cuts of this movie depending on where you get it from, and they're not the same. Which I've always, in some movies it makes sense, in other ones it's like, why did you cut this scene out? It needs to happen.
And it really does confuse me because they had sex in that one scene, the father and daughter.
No. What the fuck are you talking about?
I did that just to trigger Martin.
Well done. Mission accomplished.
The minute he spoke, I knew I won. Now I love the Tojo.
Hey, look, Mel has his helmet.
This American is also one of the survivors from the plane crash. And I didn't catch it because I looked away because I was doing artwork, but I'm assuming he gets wasted at some point because he's not there at the end. So I'm assuming he dies in combat, the other American there, Martin.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming because, like you say, there were no survivors from this mission. So,
but he doesn't make it to the boat. At the end.
Hello.
I was
Man,
talking
my yes, my mic keeps dying. Yeah, I think he survives, but the main
he just goes somewhere else because he's not with them.
No, I think he goes. I think he goes in the boat. But it's
I did not see him in the boat.
A big. I think.
Because they get the Japanese guy in there, and I'm assuming he gets hit by one of the stray rounds because he's dead on the boat with a single bullet wound to the chest.
Man, the death that had more weight, at least for me, was Sam Neill's, because the Dutchman. Oh, you knew he was going to die the moment he said, "No, I found happiness. I'm staying here." Oh, you're dead.
Yeah, like anytime they talk about anytime a character in a war movie talks about like what they're gonna do after the war, or how happy they are, it's just like, oh, buddy.
It's like, oh, why did you do that?
Or have a baby
so
on
what
the
are you
way.
going to do after you get out of the army? Well, I'm going to settle down, have me some kids, and I got a woman waiting for me. It's just amazing. Oh, he's going to die.
Yeah, everyone just starts
going to die a
away from that guy.
Death.
Just like, and he's going to get killed in about 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, right.
That'll learn you.
I mean, it's the next best thing to, the original Star Trek, where it's just like, oh, yes, Captain Kirk, Dr. McCoy, and Ensign so-and-so beamed down to a planet. Guess what two are coming back?
They did that on Family Guy. It made me laugh. The away mission will be Dr. McCoy, Commander Spock, Captain Kirk, and Ensign Ricky. Oh, shit, I'm going to die, aren't I?
Okay, the little scene is confirming. Yes, he dies, and does make it beautiful.
Because I kept looking away to do artwork, and I would look back, and then I just noticed, like right at the tail end, where the fuck is that guy? I guess he didn't make it. How dare he love her?
Well, you can blame it for saying that girl is gorgeous.
Sure she is. But she should have gotten Mel Gibson. She might have lived. Or, then John Philip Law would have lived.
Yeah, but if she went with Mel, she would have died.
Yeah, he was. But I guess you kind of expect somebody has to die that you like. And Sam Neill's one of the characters that you like in the film.
Yeah, Sam Neill has been great.
Yes, he was the badass in the movie.
I mean, he fucking walks up and takes the duty of having to shoot a friend.
Yep.
And I think that if I had to be put down, I'd want it to be somebody that gave a shit about me.
Yeah, fair enough.
Although when I was in the army, my best friend, Julio Gonzalez, I told Julio, I said, hey man, if we do get shipped out, man, right away, man, if I chicken shit and start to run, please shoot me and drag me back. He goes, yeah, no problem. And I went, you answered that really quickly. He goes, well, I love you, man. It's not really coming out that way. Just not feeling the love right now that you would be so quick to just shoot me. I mean, would you hesitate?
You will feel it when I shoot you.
But that was a conversation that happened between him and me because they'd been threatening us for a long time to just ship us over. And finally, we just volunteered. So send us over. And senior NCOs are like, you're still training. We're not going to, we're just doing it to scare something. You really want to go? Holland, Julio, and I were the three. We volunteered to go right out. The basic. We'll go.
See, and Sam Neill had the right idea. Just kill the Jap and let's go in silence, and nobody dies.
Yeah.
People want to vote.
He strung them with that passionate speech that led them to alter their deaths.
Yeah, because almost the entire village is dead at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know. If
Only the
anybody made
girl
it.
survives.
On camera, everybody that was fighting is dead except for her.
Yeah, well,
He was in his 20s.
This movie is 44 years old. Or 43.
Yeah, Mel was about 23, 24 when he did this, so back when he still sounded Australian.
I need to check.
He definitely still sounded Australian back then. But I'm always surprised when I get to watch a movie like this and see people, and I've never seen them that young, actors. I know them from like 10 or 15 years older. It's always fun.
Yeah, I was 16 when he made this movie, and he's exactly 8 years older than me.
Yeah, so he would have been 24.
Yeah. Good guess.
He already had sort of that intensity, which I like about him.
It's his eyes.
It really works later because he shot with Franco Zeffirelli in one of my personal favorite version of Hamlet.
yes.
With him. And he was just at an age where he could get away with playing Hamlet because he looked young enough. Even though technically he was too old, he still looked the part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Timothy Chalamet is, I think, about 24, 25 now, and he looks like he's like 15.
Yeah.
He's a baby face. No muscles.
He's going to go
nothing.
from looking 15 to looking haggard. You watch.
Yeah.
He's going to hit somewhere like right around 45, 50, and all of a sudden he's just going to look like absolute shit.
It's like a lot of Asian actors are like that, where they look like they're in their early 20s until they're 60, and then they look like they're 100.
Yeah. Like Jackie Chan didn't look like he was aging at all.
No.
Through all of his movies. And then one day he makes a movie, and I look at him and went, Jesus Christ, he looks old.
You remember that episode in Ren and Stimpy when Ren is having his birthday and Stimpy remembers, oh, so 10 years in Dog Years you have 70, and in that precise moment Ren collapses.
Well, my grandfather was kind of like that in reverse, where he was one of those guys that looked like he was 60 when he was 40, but then he also looked like he was 60 when he was 80. He just aged really quickly and then stopped.
And
he
here's the
consumed
thing.
all his age points.
One thing that always bothers me with so many films is when they have guys that are in their mid-20s to 30 playing soldiers, when the average age of the American soldier was 19, even in World War II. And it's just really weird to see older guys, because the thing about soldiers is when you see them fresh before they become combat vets, they look like kids.
Yeah. And well, I mean, because a lot of them are kids, especially during World War I and World War II. A lot of them were actually 16-year-olds who lied about their age to get in.
My grandfather was 16. He lied about his age.
So, I mean, even the 19 average age of a soldier, it may be slightly younger than that because of all the guys who weren't quite 17 yet.
Yeah, Ming Na is a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
She is. That's one of the things I like in Band of Brothers, that they really were young.
Yeah.
Because movies like Kelly's Heroes, they're so fucking old. Nothing makes sense.
Tom Hardy looked like a child.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really did. Yeah, I love that series. We're eventually going to cover it on here. We're going to cover a lot of things with Dale Dunn. I'll probably send him some questions to maybe do video answers with. I hate bugging him for time because he is always so busy.
Yeah, also our show is pretty early for him. You wouldn't want him to be up early to come on our show.
There goes the second beret guy.
Yep.
Look at that giant bullet hole in the clothing.
Yeah,
tiny one in the
I was going to point that out. It's so goofy.
That's one of those things in this movie where, like, once you see it, you'll never unsee it, and you'll notice it every time.
Yeah, there's one near the end where the guy is laying back like this, stretched out, and gigantic diamond-shaped holes in the clothing and little bloody bullet holes. It's just fucking goofy. Like, whoever was in charge of that should have been slapped.
The fact that he stayed in charge throughout the whole movie, that nobody cared to make it look right.
It's probably one of those things they only noticed in like post-production, and there's just like, well, it's too late to change it now.
How do you only notice that in post? When people come out of like makeup styled like that?
Yeah, that's true.
Do you not notice that it looks...
And you have the dailies.
And by the way, talking with a fellow weapon expert, I get so frustrated when I watch shows that clearly don't have a good military advisor, showing guys doing close quarter combat with their hand all the way out on the pistol, the hand grip. And it's like, no, you're going to be turning corners. You want to have your hand, if you don't have a forward grip on your weapon, you're going to put your hand up against the magazine housing, the magazine.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, we do that.
Best control.
We do use like the C-clamp method now, but that's because we have much shorter weapons overall, and we've changed how we train guys to shoot, especially close quarters. Even when I was
there, he is.
From when I was,
I missed this. He died right there.
Yeah,
the other American. So keep going, dude. I'm sorry.
But we've completely changed the way we teach combat shooting. Even since I was in, I had to get retrained by a couple of guys I know who were SF, and it is a better way of doing it. But you're absolutely right. Back, especially with this period of weapons with no foregrip and no kind of like rail system to grab onto, you'd want to be in tight up against the magazine, well, kind of peeking around corners just barely.
Yep. Because like, look, long range shooting is different. And I see all these people like that guy, that Navy guy, that fake photo of him firing
with the scope in reverse.
Oh my God.
With
the comment sections on that photo are fucking hysterical.
Yeah, and the grip, the hand grip, is not attached to the weapon correctly, so it's bent, and there's something funky about the stock. So I'm like, either that is a replica and they CG'd in those rounds, or somebody doesn't know how to assemble a weapon. And
yeah, the handguards are popping off
and
the rifle.
Elbow up.
That was the one that triggered me more than anything else, other than the obvious of the optic being on backwards.
Weapons training, especially for combat, you're trained to tuck your arms in. It's like boxing. It's the same principle. Better control of your weapon, and
smaller target,
better down the sights. Now, see, they did a good job with his wound.
Yeah, see, that one, that looks all right.
That looks more believable because he probably tore it a little bit too to look at the wound.
Still doesn't look great though.
No, it's not great.
There's a lot more blood on it, is why it looks better.
Yeah.
Now that's odd. He's firing a Browning.
Yeah, although the Japanese did scavenge a lot of captured American equipment from early on in the campaign, so
They had
it's not
what was
completely unbelievable.
their machine gun called? The Pineapple? What was it called?
Well, they had two. They had the Type 11 and the Type 99.
There was a nickname for it though, something masher, because it sounded like something being mashed when it fired.
That I don't know. I know they had the Type 99, which was basically a copy of the Bren with that top-loading magazine, which is actually a much better system than you'd think. And the Type 11, which was this weird old, like side-loaded, almost like the World War I Hotchkiss, where it had that like solid tray of bullets.
Right. I'm trying to remember the damn nickname, and I can't remember it. They in the Pacific, they bring it up, and they did a great job of. Well, Dell Dye's in charge, so you know he's going to be accurate. The antiquated T11. There's the 99 and the 96. That is not what I'm looking for. I'm going to find this weapon because it's driving me crazy. I hate it when I forget something.
Yeah, I do remember what you're talking about. They brought up a nickname for one of the Japanese machine guns. I just can't remember which one and what it was.
He's going to find out.
Which
yeah, I'm going to find it.
Which the funny part was the Japanese had excellent.
It was
aircraft.
called the potato masher.
Oh, so the same as the German grenade.
Wait, potato masher was a grenade.
Yeah. Specifically a German one.
Yep.
Oh, it is. That's a grenade. It's not the one I want. God damn it. It's in the Pacific.
Yeah. I'll have to watch through it again and try to see it. But it was funny that the Japanese had excellent ships and aircraft, but their vehicles and infantry weapons were absolutely god awful.
The father dies.
Yep.
He dies.
Yeah, he gets hit center mass. So he's fucked.
Yeah, this is that point of the movie where everything just starts happening and everybody just starts dropping.
Oh, that was it. It was called the Woodpecker.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Because when it fired, it sounded like the knocking on wood of a woodpecker.
Yeah, you mentioned that to me before, that it had that nickname.
So they take off on a Japanese, Chinese fishing boat. Small individual fishing boat, not a big one. Little to no cover on that thing. Yeah, doing this during the daytime was ridiculous. They should have done this at night.
Yeah, any kind of like extraction like that should be done after dark because, like you say, you're absolutely vulnerable. And this thing's made out of plywood.
Will not stop bullets.
No.
Hide behind something. What? It's this whole thing is nothing but wants bullets. It wants their bullets.
Well, and again, this is the very beginning of special operations warfare. So a lot of it on the planning side was not there yet in terms of what you need to do and how you need to do it to accomplish the mission successfully.
We are done here today. We have done man's work. Gibson looks over, pulls the sheet back, and he's got that bullet hole in him. And because all of this, all these people are dead, and for nothing.
This is a frustrating moment.
Well, fuck.
Yeah, that there's no mistaking that look of.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, this is bad.
Wait a minute. That's a plastic milk crate.
Yeah.
They didn't have that in World War II.
Probably not, especially not over in Southeast Asia.
You see a modern truck at 1.2, Gary.
Well, yeah.
You only see it from behind, but it's clearly way more
That's
modern.
him looking at his career.
Maybe.
He's in a lot of films. He really is. He's very popular.
That was harsh.
He worked all the way till his death. Yeah, I know I'm a harsh person. That's what I do.
And this is your pretty much standard.
Poor girl.
This is pretty much your standard Australian mission. The Aussies show up, everyone dies.
This movie was not popular in Australia.
And what's so funny is later they adopted the SAS into the Australian military.
Yep.
And so you have English or British SAS and Australian SAS.
And they're both excellent troops too. I just like making fun of the Aussies because they're good sports about it.
This is what I love about the Australians. Every single time we've gone into a conflict, they're the first ones to jump in with us.
Yep, them and the Canadians.
And the Canadians. And by the way, we did this earlier, but I would love to do the film again. Tears in the Sun.
Oh, great movie.
Yeah.
And what I love about that film is a lot of people don't know, little detail, it was an Australian Special Forces team.
Yep.
And the true story, it took place in South America.
Yeah, they just changed stuff around for it to be a little more.
A lot of the things happen exactly like they showed it, not always in the same order, except for that final battle. That's the only bit where they embellished.
Yeah,
and
because it's Hollywood, you got to have that big action scene.
Yeah, they lost nobody on their team. They killed a few bad guys, but they did not lose anybody on their team. But they wanted that dramatic impact of people you care about dying.
Yep.
So I like the film. I like it a lot, and it's one of my favorite Bruce Willis films.
Yeah, I mean that's a really, really solid one. I've always been partial to a lot of the Vietnam era films. Like there's a new one, actually Australian movie, Danger Close. Brilliant film.
Oh, dude, I want to do that on here. I brought it up before. There's a couple of them. There's the one where it's on Netflix. Let's see if I can find it.
Danger Close. Which one? From 2017 or 2019?
I think it's 2019. It was on Amazon for a long time.
Yeah, Danger Close. First, it's got that kid in it that I really like. He was in Raised by Wolves, Ridley Scott show.
Yeah, and also has Travis Flamel from Vikings. Great actor.
That's who I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah. Great actor. I love him.
Really good actor. Let's see. What was the other one I saw that was over on... No, don't include The Siege of Firebase Gloria. That's Don Eckert's favorite film. It's an American film. It's not Australian. Let's see if I can find it here, because...
No, really solid movie. And, a lot of people don't even remember that the Australians were in Vietnam in numbers.
Yeah, they had a lot of casualties. And there's another Vietnam War film that came out years ago that was really good about coming home.
Yep.
Oh, man, I am not finding that film. And I'm positive it was Australian.
Well, I found our discussion of Tears in the Sun, and that was 1 year ago, so we can go and do it again.
Actually, another film I want to do is Breaker Morant. Because that's a great fucking movie. True story. The ugly side of the Australian military, any military, is when you're ordered to do something and then you're treated like you committed a crime for doing what you're ordered to do.
Yep.
Which is why now you are allowed, well, in modern military, you're allowed to countermand an order, disobey an order, if you feel that it's going to unnecessarily endanger your men or yourself, or you consider it immoral.
Yep. You had better be prepared to defend that in court, though.
Absolutely, because JAG's gonna fucking go at you all guns.
Yeah, like they are going to bring the hammer down on you. But if you genuinely believe that what your position is the correct one, then you can go for it. People have been sent to the stockade for it, but a lot more have been exonerated. And there's been more than a couple, even in the American military, that they've done some shit that was not right. And the commander is usually the one who ends up being blamed for it because it's his order. Like, you've obviously seen Black Hawk Down. Do you ever hear the story of what happened to Lieutenant Colonel Steele in Iraq?
No, I don't think so.
He was involved in a couple of things. A whole bunch of civilians died, and it turns out that he gave the order to fire on them, and he ended up being court-martialed for it, I believe.
Wow.
Which richly deserved.
Wow. I've got to look this up for a second because this is going to drive me crazy. I'm wondering if that is still the same film.
It could be.
I'm going to look up the images to see if it's because they're using a different one. Does their base get overrun in that?
I don't believe so. Their unit starts getting overrun out in the front.
Because the film I'm thinking about is one where the base gets overrun, and they keep throwing up Firebase Glory, and I'm like, no, it was an Australian film. It was on Netflix, and it may just be Danger Close.
It might be Danger Close because I know that was up, like that was on Amazon Prime. It wouldn't surprise me if it was on Netflix as well. Which it sucks that places like Amazon and Netflix are the only place we get to see foreign films in the U.S. because a lot of them are really good. The new All Quiet on the Western Front was brilliant.
Oh, I actually thought it was. I didn't want to like it because I'm a big fan of the book and the first two attempts at making.
Yeah, I mean, the '79 movie is still my favorite adaptation of that.
I actually really do like that. Ernest Borgnine is good in that.
Brilliant.
Richard Thomas, great acting. But I really still like the first one, even though I thought that ending was just
that, and it was made in 1930, and it shows.
Yeah, it really does. You know, but I do like that in the version with Richard Thomas, he's drawing a bird and he tries to get a better angle, and the sniper hits him.
Well, and I love that ending, and that's how the book ends as well. Is he forgets where he is for 1 second, and that's all it takes.
1 second. But there's something more realistic about the ending with the recent one.
Yeah,
where you don't see him get killed. You just see people find him.
Yep.
Dead. And that felt more real to me.
Yeah, and All Quiet on the Western Front is one of those movies and books that is just it goes to some dark, dark places. Like that scene where he has to spend the night in a shell crater with the guy he just killed.
Mm-hmm.
That is an awesome scene.
Hello.
Hello. The Outpost is another one. You know that
Again.
I've interviewed Rod Lurie twice, right? The director.
Yep.
Yeah.
What did you think of that film?
I liked it.
That's it. Thank you.
Siege of Jadaville? Yeah, I've seen it.
Deleted scenes. Thank you, Martin, for bringing
No,
my
but
attention.
wait. Siege of Jadaville doesn't happen in Vietnam.
Yeah, isn't that in Angola?
Yes. And I've been asking for you to do this movie like crazy, and you don't.
Well, I don't want to do it because you want it.
I knew that. I knew that. Man, that is an awesome movie.
Now, I'll tell you something that I really do like about the Marine Corps and the Army is something we have in common is my name is the first and last thing out of your mouth in boot.
Yeah.
And in the Marine Corps, it's sir, yes, sir. In the Army, it's sergeant, yes, sergeant.
And we do things a little differently because of the naval tradition. You have three responses instead of two. You have yes, no, and I. I is not yes.
Aye.
It is acknowledgement of an order.
Also, the Marine Corps and Navy are the only ones that say 0900.
Yep.
The Army and Air Force say 0. And I hate it when I see Army characters saying "oh," and I'm like, don't do that. We say 0. It's because Marine Corps came from the naval tradition.
Yep. And for a lot of our history, we were basically shipboard security / landing force
the assault teams, the landing teams. Yep.
Yeah. And that's actually why we did so well in World War I, because we're trained to fight in the corridors of a ship. And well, a trench is a lot like that. So a lot of our equipment and tactics are very effective there.
Let's not forget, the first incursion into foreign land wasn't done by the Army.
Nope, Marines in 1803.
Done by the Marines in the Battle of Tripoli.
Yep.
And the Marines were just a handful, and they inducted farmers and shit into their ranks.
Well, dude, that period of Marine Corps history is my absolute favorite because, first of all, the entire Marine Corps was 225 guys at that time, which nowadays is a rifle company. And our commandant was a captain. And we basically went down and captured a couple of British forts without firing a shot by basically bluffing them, because they figured that nobody would be stupid enough to try to, lay siege to a British fort with 200 guys. And we're like, oh, yeah, we're just the advance force. The landing force is coming the other side of the island. You'll see them shortly.
It's actually part of the Battle of Tripoli is in my story, The Darker, because you find out that the vampire in it is... again, one of those characters that was made a vampire against his will.
Yep.
He wasn't asked. And so he rebelled by becoming a war junkie.
Okay.
Why would a war junkie be a good place for a vampire? Because they can drink
die.
the enemy and nobody would notice.
Yep. And also you're immortal, so you don't really care.
So he ends up becoming friends, and Fahim Fazli, my friend, he got excited about this story because I created a character just for him in it, where he meets an Afghani man that was a slave, and he ends up freeing him. And this Afghani, because his entire family is dead, swears allegiance to this vampire, not knowing he's a vampire. But he saw what he could do. He's a monster. He was able to kill all these people so quickly. And ends up finding out what he is, and he says, you must be a good man because you only killed bad people.
Well,
and so he becomes he's also jokingly referred to as his Jiminy Cricket in the story, because he's kind of his conscience. Do you really want to do that, my friend? You really want to do that? Because in the script, and I don't want to say much more than this, because you're led to believe that this vampire is the one that's killing everybody in the town, but it's actually the ancient vampire that created it.
Okay.
And it's just a cool fucking story.
Yeah.
Also has something in it that's never been done in a film, and I will never tell you what it is. I'll tell you in private, but not on the show.
But no, one of the coolest stories from Tripoli for me was they needed a cannon, so they went and met up with USS Argus and got one of her guns, and were dragging this thing through the desert, and they were absolutely sure they needed this cannon for the assault on Tripoli itself. And they get it set up, and they fire the first shot. Unfortunately, they also fired the ramrod. So after one shot, this thing is completely now useless.
Well, it's what Yusuf reminded me of is the first squad automatic weapon was the BAR.
Yep.
And as amazing as that weapon is for its accuracy and damage, it's such a clunky weapon. It's so fucking heavy. 2, it took them years to figure out how to fit it with the bipod.
Yep.
And
3,
the last bipod was the best one, but also the magazine.
Yeah.
It's like by the time you fire your full automatic burst, you're out.
Yeah, the 20-round mag was not a great thing for that gun.
And it just didn't work. And it was so fucking heavy. And
but
you know,
especially in World War I, the guys on the front loved them. The few that did get them because it wasn't the show shot.
Nope.
Which is widely regarded as the worst light machine gun ever made.
And by the way, we were talking about this the other day. One of the single greatest inventions during World War I was the use of the pump shotgun.
Yep.
In combat.
I still want 1897 so bad.
They're like, if we catch any American soldier with a shotgun, we will execute them. And the Americans' response was, you do that and we'll execute every German we capture.
Yeah. And
oh, wait, we didn't expect you to call our bluff.
Yeah. Well, I love how our response to, being accused of war crimes back then was, oh, really, Mr. Chemical Warfare? Do we really want to talk about the asshole here?
Well, the Americans did it too. No, we didn't. We thought about it at one point going into World War II, because there was big consideration for it, and then we said we can't do it.
Yeah,
can't do it.
After what we went through in World War I think all sides involved, including the Germans, were like, we're not doing that.
That was the big surprise. Once the war started, there was an expectation of chemical warfare, and the Germans wouldn't do it
because even they viewed that as horrific.
My grandfather got stuck on one of the coffin ships there in New York Harbor, where nobody was allowed to leave because of the Spanish flu. It had to work its way through the ship and kill whoever was going to kill before they would allow people to come back. They had to be clear of the flu for I think it's how many days? I think 3 days, 4 days before they would allow them to come stateside. The entire ship had to have gone through it and not show signs for at least a short period of time. Then they finally let them come ashore. And he said, we watched so many guys die on those ships, and they were already sick from the scars on their lungs from the mustard gas. So the flu just killed those guys quick.
Or even just living in the trenches for months on end just breeds disease and things like that and lowers your immune system. So you're very vulnerable to it.
Yeah, that's why trench warfare is terrible. And we just did Gallipoli last week. And with Gallipoli, the reason why they fought that battle there specifically was to get away from the European campaign and all the trench warfare. And what's the first thing they fucking do is they dig trenches. Right back to trench warfare.
They basically, unfortunately, it was mostly a necessity of World War I in that you didn't have the mechanization that you had during the Second World War. So your supply chain could not keep up with you. So eventually you would run out of either ammo, food, or whatever, and you would have to then dig in. Yeah. And once the trenches start going up, they keep going up, and then nothing happens.
I've always sort of assumed that part of the reason why they went down there was to create a different way of transporting food.
Partially, and also is to open another front to basically distract troops away from the Western Front, because that was the whole strategy, was to try to make the Central Powers fight on every front imaginable.
Yeah,
including the Alpine Front, which I hope they do movies about someday.
That played into it, that they wanted to have an avenue to get supplies in.
Yeah, and I hope they do a movie about the Alpine Front in World War I at some point, because that front is insane. Picture trench warfare, but vertical.
Right.
It's absolutely bonkers, and I hope somebody does a movie about it someday, because the Italians don't get enough credit for that front, even though nothing really happened.
They just remember for World War II.
Well, yeah, because they were on the wrong side of that one.
It's like my favorite. What's the first thing they teach? They switch over to the French, but it was originally the Italians. Was what's the first thing they teach you in Italian basic training in the military?
I give up. Yeah. But
later it would be the French.
When you look at it, Germany picked the worst possible allies to have during that war. You have Italy, who's only half industrialized and pretty incompetent when it comes to any kind of large scale operation, and Japan, which is a great naval power and very organized military, but they're on the other side of the world and can't support you in any way.
Yeah, they've got Russia and China between them.
Yeah. And if you want to go by sea, congratulations. You have to deal with not only the U.S., but also the Royal Navy. So that was just not going to happen. So it was a very politically, I see why those powers aligned with each other, because they were all fairly fascist, but strategically it makes absolutely zero sense.
Hitler, I'm going to say Hitler, was very inspired by Mussolini.
Oh yeah,
yes, he was a fanboy.
Oh, he totally was, and
he copied him.
Tried to say that it was the other way around. I went, no,
Nope.
Absolutely, he adored Mussolini. He did, looked up to him, and I think Mussolini's end is what led to Hitler faking how he died, because I don't think he died there in the bunker.
Yeah, I don't know.
In fact, you'll like this, Pope. You and I should talk about this after the show. I have a story, fictional story, based on some history, called Operation Hound Dog.
Okay.
And it begins as you've got a commando who's in the OSS, and you've got a British commando who are sent to investigate what happened in that bunker. And it's their assessment that is not his skull. That is not him.
Okay. What happened in the bunker stays in the bunker.
Yeah. And so they begin an investigation that goes international. It's inspired by the show Hunting Hitler.
Okay.
Because I love that show.
It's a great show.
And they proved pretty much to me without a shadow of doubt that the odds are he did not die there, that he survived.
Nobody ever saw the body.
True. Yeah, that's very true. All we have is the
skull
testimony from a bunch of committed Nazis.
Yeah, people who were committed to the cause, telling us, "Oh yes, he shot himself." Yeah.
Yeah. It was almost like a lot of the German generals after the war trying to say how they weren't really members of the Nazi party. They didn't believe in the ideology. It was just required to be a senior ranking officer in the army.
Keep YouTube happy. Say Yahtzee.
Yeah, and that's one of those, like, really? Like, they weren't really committed to the cause, even though half of them were, and then blamed everything on the guy who's not here to defend himself.
Well, and I've always said the greatest ruse is to kill your bride.
Yep.
I mean, leave her there. Clearly, he would not do that.
Of course, he wouldn't leave without his love. And one of the stories I love from the post-World War II period is the Mossad. When one of their first,
yeah, that's a good one. Nice read.
But one of the cool stories is one of the original jobs of the Mossad was basically going over to South America and finding a lot of the former Reich operatives that had gone over there.
Wehrmacht, former SS, yeah.
Yep, and basically just show up at their house and literally, this was with a badass thing. They did this to a bunch of terrorists too, where they're just like, "Hi, I'm from the Mossad. I'm here to kill you," and then just blow the guy away.
Actually, I don't like Steven Spielberg's film.
Yeah, Munich
what
is
happened
okay
after that incident. I think that the earlier film is better, but the book, which was written by a former Mossad operator, that book is amazing.
Oh yeah, the book.
And the descriptions of what they did, how they outwitted these guys with was it Black September, right? Wasn't that the group?
September or October?
I think it was Black September for some reason.
Okay.
That's the one that rolls out of my brain. The way they outwitted these guys. The one is the bomb under the bed is the one that just gets me to this day. They call him to make sure he's sitting on the edge of the bed.
Make sure he's there.
Yeah, and picks up that phone. When he answers that phone and just set off that explosive. These guys were so good. And I thought Spielberg was kind of a pussy the way he made his film. It's like, these are some bad people. They're not good guys. They didn't have a valid argument. That was just pure murder, what they did.
Yeah, and that was back in the old days of, the espionage, where the CIA used to do that too, where if you pissed off the Americans too bad, well, there's probably going to be a bad ending for you.
And GSG-9 got a black eye from that.
Fortunately, they learned a lot of lessons
from the operation.
They learned a lot of lessons from that and really improved dramatically after that incident. But yeah, that did not cover them in glory that day.
Yeah, it's like, so let me get this straight. You guys started World War II, killed a lot of Jewish people. Your job was to rescue Jewish people, and they all died.
Right.
Like,
I still laugh at the fact that Austria started both world wars and got away with it.
Anima, you got anything to say to that?
No.
Because I'm right.
It was called the Austro-Hungarian conflict.
Yep. And the certain painter was also Austrian.
Yes, and Austria kicked him out. Austria wouldn't even have him go
That
to
is true.
our school.
Yeah, sure.
So
That
blame
was
that one
said
on
later.
Germany.
That was how
Blame
they
that
covered
one
their
on
ass
Germany.
later. They covered that later.
But
After
they
World
I
War
like
One.
to test. I like to tease Anima about this shit.
Yeah,
so
but
this is
especially
funny you
World
brought
War
that up.
One, Austria starts the war, and then
They
Germany
killed our
got all the
fucking
blame
prince.
for it.
Hello? They killed our fucking prince.
Well, true.
Successor to the throne. Austria had to react to that one. Come on.
True, but at the same time,
You
it's
know
just like
history.
Austria was
You're
the one
talking
that
about
actually
Archduke
kicked things
Ferdinand.
off, and yet Germany was the one who paid the price for it.
Well,
Yeah,
Germany made
is
Hitler great.
is
There you
like
go.
driven into the fucking Stone Age after World War One, and it's like this is ripe pickings for what happened, and that's why I've always said, and most historians agree, that yeah, France and England is to blame for World War II happening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough.
They
Treaty
started
of
that shit.
Versailles.
But we had warnings early about the Japanese too. The Billy Mitchell was court-martialed
Yep.
because he said they're going to attack us. You watch, and they're going to hit Pearl Harbor. 20 years before it happened.
Yep.
And the thing is, we had an organization called the League of Nations, which is just exactly like the United Nations.
So useless, incompetent, and corrupt?
Yeah, incompetent and corrupt. And we started overseeing the blocking of steel being sold to Japan. We put a chokehold on them. And that is directly what led to them attacking us.
Yeah, there was two goods that they bought in large numbers because they couldn't get high quality versions of either from their own resources, was steel and oil.
Yep.
Steel was
And when
a
we put a
problem for
chokehold on
them,
them,
but they had no
knew they had to
natural
put
source
us out
of
of
oil
commission.
in their own territory. So when we cut off their oil supply,
Yep.
we basically guaranteed they would have to go to war, or it would be the end of their country.
They would attack us. They did not think it would be war. They actually thought that they would disable us, and that we would realize the situation and sign a quick treaty to end it.
The thing nobody saw, even our allies.
Americans we don't do that.
Well, they didn't realize that part of our mentality, that if you sucker punch us, we are coming for you. And also, I don't think anyone saw our industrial capability coming, where we basically just we sank your navy.
Turned our entire
shipyard go burr.
weapon makers. That's right. Rosie the Riveter. You know, we were just absolutely mass producing weapons.
No, yeah, if it had had a military use at all, from bandages all the way up to warships, we were building them on a scale never seen before.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry, I got to play this. There's a Scottish band called Franz Ferdinand.
Yes, I know the song. It's actually quite good.
Fuck.
And they with the hit song "Take Me Out."
Oh my god.
that is a fact.
Oh my
okay.
god. That's just dirty.
That came out about the same time I was
his
learning about World War One in high school. So I heard that on the radio. I'm like, wait, no.
I've never heard of this. I'm gonna have to go check it out. But do you know that the first attempt on him failed?
Yep.
And it was just purely by accident that the person who was supposed to pull the trigger was at a cafe where they stopped.
Yep.
And then he ran up and did it. And it's like, somebody wasn't thinking, why would you do that? It's just, I don't know. I do want to do the one that talks about the assassination. They made a recent film with the Irish actor Cillian Murphy.
Okay.
Where the Europeans set up a point where they were going to do a choke point on a well-known German officer, part of the Wehrmacht, and they successfully assassinated him. They threw a grenade in the car and everything. They've made 2 films about it. One that was made in 1960 and the one that was made in the 2010s. And I saw the 2010 one, and I got to say that the scene is more accurate, but what a horrible movie. It's just no good. So I'm probably going to want to go back and watch the one from 1960 because even though they got some of the things wrong, it's still a really tense thriller. Okay, all right. I can't click that link here, but I will look it up afterward, buddy.
It's a fairly decent song, yeah.
Can you click on it? Paul,
Yes,
you can link. Yeah, if you guys would put it in a private chat, that'd be great because then I can click on the link.
I'm on it.
I don't know why they won't let us click on the links when we are at admins.
It's just one of the weird things that StreamYard does.
Again, I do want to say, look, the Australians have put out some amazing special forces guys.
There, it's on the private chat.
I think it's so much better when they adopted the training of the SAS because their commandos got even better. I remember it even.
Come on, even Keith Porcal has played the song.
Oh wow! Wow, that's incredible.
I guess they were banned in Austria or something. I've never come across.
Not surprising.
Imagine that. They should have just called the band Archduke Ferdinand, and that would have really hit home.
Yeah, it would be like an American country artist named John Wilkes Booth.
I'm listening to it right now. I'm just a shot away from you.
Oh my God.
Still one of my favorite sayings of all time is, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you enjoy the play?
Other than that, how did you enjoy the play? My American Cousin. Does anybody know that?
No.
That's the play.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just, I've been to the Ford Theater
God.
so many times. I actually saw,
Dude.
Hold on. I saw Whitmore. What's his name? God, he's in the ant movie, the giant ant movie, Anima. Whitmore.
Okay.
Oh my God, great actor. Anyway, classic movie actor. He played Harry S. Truman. Give him hell, Harry. I saw that at the Ford Theater. And I always would look up at that box. Nobody's allowed in there. It's roped off. You can never go in that box where Lincoln was shot.
I just went to Spotify, look for the band, and the first song is "Take Me Out."
Yep. Yeah, it's their biggest hit by far.
God damn.
Glenn Fleming.
You would say that song is a bang.
It's my good mate, Glenn Fleming. Hello, old man.
Just as we're about to finish.
Yep.
It's funny when people
Read
drop
by
in at the end.
nature. Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna wrap up now.
Oh,
really?
Look at this. Take Me Out isn't really the assassination song. There's another. Oh, they really lean into it.
There's one by Peter Gabriel too, called Snapshot.
No, by the same band, by Franz Ferdinand. Oh my God.
So they did a couple of songs.
I mean, I guess when you name your band something like Franz Ferdinand, you just got to go with it. That becomes the bit.
Although if I'd seen the name, I probably wouldn't have connected it to. I would have assumed, somebody in a band named Franz.
Well, that's one of those like kind of almost inside jokes of like, let's see who's paying attention.
Glenn Fleming. Yep. All right, so I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank Poe for joining us, man. It was awesome having you on here, dude.
Yeah, man.
You fit in. You really fit in. Kingsport Cal, I want to thank you for being here, buddy. Cal, it's always good to see you. D. Bud Martin, one of the hardest working wrenches on YouTube. Sci-Fi Mombi. I didn't know that she was a woman. I accidentally clicked on a link and joined her in one of her shows. And I thought it was going to Loki. And I'm like, wait, where the hell am I? Sci-Fi Mombi. And Sci-Fi Mombi is a woman. I'm like, huh. And she goes, sci-fi zombie, and I'm like, I wouldn't put that together. I just thought it was some weird name.
You're the only one on YouTube, Gary.
Yeah.
You really are the only
I
one
just
who
don't
couldn't
really
figure that
put a
out.
lot into time into like people's names because
Dude.
there's so many weird names on
You
here.
did with me.
You went like Gerard
Yours
Butler
is
in that
Latin
scene.
that I recognize, so
You went like Gerard Butler in that scene, mate. Everybody knows. You're the only one who doesn't.
yeah. So sci-fi Mombi, Read by Nature. Penny was here. She put the baby down, so she got to watch the show a little bit. Dragon Ruse, awesome one. Deleted Scenes, Vinkman's Girl, and of course Glenn Fleming. I want to thank all you guys for being here. It was great. I hope everybody enjoyed the fun we had here. Because even if we're not going to get so much into the movie, we're going to have interesting conversations while watching the slideshow. And having you here, Pope, really added to it because, somebody else that knows a lot about being in the military.
Yes, sir.
And it's so important. Pope's black. No, he's not. He's white.
And with that, we're
Only where
cancelled.
it counts.
Yeah, he's black where it counts.
Okay.
I want to thank everybody for being here. I deeply appreciate it. If we missed any backdoor breach,
No.
Check around and see if there's a back door.
there you go. 2 extra ones. 2. What do they call that with the birthday spankings? 2 to grow on.
What?
What?
Yeah, that was the thing back in the day, man. On your birthday, you would get spanked the number of years you were old, and it wasn't like a mean spanking. It was like just playful spanking, tink, tink, tink. But then like the parents would go, and 2 more to grow on, 2 extra spankings.
Fuck. Glad we don't do shit like that here.
You can never be black when it counts. That's a trait.
Although, before we go, my roommate when I was younger, Kennard, he and I lived together, and we were never really officially in a band together, but we played together all the time. Me on keyboards or drums, and him on guitar because he was a beast on guitar. He could shred. And one day, Charlie was living with us. He was our other roommate. Anima knows Charlie Bruce. Charlie was our roommate.
Of course.
Charlie walked out into the hallway, and when we came out later, he was sitting downstairs eating. He goes, "You know what I find really weird? The black guy listens to white rock and roll, and the white guy listens to funk. You guys are just polar opposites when it comes to music, and opposite to your race." And I went, I never really thought about that.
Oh, like the selection of cars in 48 hours. The one guy in the caddy.
Kennard, yeah. Because if you talk to Kennard privately, he would just all he wanted to talk about was the Who, Pete Townsend. He would bring up Jimi Hendrix, but his focus was on Eric Clapton, the Who, Cream. He liked fucking rock and roll. He'd sit and listen to the Beatles all day long, and other bands like that. And it's because of him that I got introduced to Crowded House, because he had just bought the album and brought it home. He says, Columbia Records produced this, and they don't produce crap. And I went, yeah, you're right. And so he played it, and I'm like, holy shit. I said, why does that voice sound familiar? And then later, somebody told me, that's the dude from Split Ends. And I went, I knew that name sounded familiar, Neil Finn. Because Neil Finn, Tim Finn. That, yeah, it's funny. He listened to rock and roll, and I listened to a lot of funk. I'd be walking around as a kid, seriously, shit, goddamn, get off your ass and jam, and shit, goddamn, Dr. Funkenstein. Anyway, that was the stuff I listened to. Anyway, I hope everybody has a great day today. Pope, you're going to be on the show later with with that 70s rock fan, right?
Yes, I am. That should be a
I'm
good
going to
one.
try
Stay
to,
in
but
the
if I
dog.
can't make it, would you say hi to him for me and tell him I really would have loved to join him because I love that movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a classic. It's weird.
Yeah, it is an odd one.
I don't want to ruin the ending, but he eats the girl.
Yep. And not the fun way.
Okay.
Not the fun way.
Okay.
She made a mistake by saying we need to eat the dog.
Yep.
A telepathic dog? No.
Hmm.
You're not going to eat that dog. So see you guys later, man. You gonna be back next week with us, Pope?
Probably, yeah. I have
Okay,
Mondays
cool.
off now, so
I think I'm gonna try to get some of that Aussie stuff in, like the two films we brought up.
yeah, because they've made some excellent films over the years.
All right, man. So I'll talk to you later, buddy. Stick around for after the show.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up, Blake.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
Thank you.
Thank God that's over. Now I can go pee.